Hoffenheim point of view, the importance of being part of this football summit in Africa?
Yeah, gotta say thank you first of all for having me. I think for us it's a great pleasure. It's an honor being here in Africa, South Africa. I think the summit here in general is fantastic because it serves as a door opener for conversations. It's basically what we're looking for: collaborations. It's finding new ways of thinking, developing new ways of thinking. Exceeding our boundaries, leave our regular thought process behind. And I think there's a saying in Indonesia where you say every time you travel you rinse your eyes, and so for us it's all about that, and it's a great pleasure being here.
And especially for me, coming from SABC, and I know now the growth of Bundesliga in Africa is constant because we are showing Bundesliga, and I'm sure for you, since the Bundesliga became available on the national platform here, it also created interest for you.
Absolutely, and I think the most important thing is that it's not just for the sake of growth, but it's also for the sake of really making an impact. And so the question that we have, or that we need to ask ourselves as a league, but also as a club, is that how can we actually contribute to the growth here before we actually come here? And we can't just come to South Africa with an attitude and mindset of, hey, we are the Bundesliga, or we are TSG Hoffeinheim, we know how football works. It's just not true. We found a way for us that works for us, which is fine, which is great, but in order to really expand our boundaries, to develop our thought processes, to keep growing as a club, I think it's really important that you have partners that you can collaborate with. And so for us, we adopted the common value approach, where we say we need to combine the growth of our organization with society. And considering that we live in a globalized world, our society is not just in front of our boundaries in Hoffenheim, so not just locally, regionally, but also internationally. And so when we come here, it's like visiting family, and trying to make sure that we leave this place a better place than we found it when we got here.
Mm-hmm. And talk of those collaborations, I remember when you bought Knowledge Misona from Kaizer Chiefs, I guess it was also the start of having that kind of alliance, of getting to know about the local setup here.
Yeah. No, Knowledge Musona was a fantastic player. Kaizer Chiefs as well, such a fantastic organization. We played them in 2015. So what we did is that we founded the so-called Common Value Club Alliance. 3 countries, 3 continents, 3 clubs, 1 mission. And that mission is not to send one player from one organization to another, but it's really to use football as a catalyst for social change. And in order to be authentic, yes, you need to have that movement of players, you need to create pathways, you need to create opportunities for talent, both players, but also staff and also coaches. And so when we come here, it's always with an open mindset and really trying to see, is there maybe somebody that could be interesting for that partnership network, which is currently together with Cincinnati and Accra Hearts of Oak in Ghana.
You already have Hearts of Oak
yes.
here in Africa as your partners. If you can just take us through how beneficial is that partnership, would you be keen to maybe add a South African club in future?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we said from the very beginning is that the African landscape, the African football landscape, is massive. You know, it's if we look at and so many different levels. May that be on a pure talent perspective. If you look at the Bundesliga, La Liga, Liga 1, Premier League, of course there's a massive amount of players that came from the African continent. But the truth is that we need to look behind it, and we need to look at the landscape in general. So we cannot just extract the best players over and over and over again, because that is damaging the landscape here. So the thought process that we really have is that we need to contribute to that growth, and we cannot contribute to that growth if we extract the most valuable assets over and over again. So From a partnership perspective, it's really what can we do to grow together. And to answer your second question, yes, most definitely. One of the things that we said from the very beginning is that it's super interesting for us to find like-minded partners. And when I say like-minded partners, it's more important for us that they share the same mindset as we do, which is basically putting the human being at the core of everything that you do. And to try to create an impact for not only for your organization, but really for society at large. And if we can find this partner, then we are absolutely open to grow that network and that partnership landscape that we're trying to build.
Let's talk more about the Hoffenheim's culture of excellence. I found that to be very interesting that you are not just focusing on one aspect, whether it's the coaching or just the coaching or the academy. It's about that everything interlinks. Let's talk about how you've developed that.
Yeah, I think what Hoffenheim probably is most famous for, it's very innovative and very technology-driven approach, right? But the truth is that only functions if you have a good system in place. Because the truth is, if you have a faulty system, it actually creates faults over and over and over again. And so the root that we need to look back at, and that's where we start every conversation, is looking at the human being. And so we need to create a culture where the human being and the development of that human being is paramount to everything that we do, not the contrary. And if you talk about that culture of excellence, that is actually something that is quite easy and very simple, but it's very hard to manage. Because the culture of excellence is something that we've actually, we took that out of the Olympics playbook. And if you look at the core values of the Olympics, it's actually respect, excellence, and friendship. It's not winning, winning, winning. It's excellence, respect, and friendship. And so to implement that in your thought processes as an academy and really giving your people within the organization all the resources, all the tools to be successful in an environment that really tries to develop people, I think that's the way that we're trying to build. And I would say that we have proof of concept that it's working, because there is no club in Germany that has developed more academy players into Bundesliga players. There is no club that has developed more coaches into Bundesliga coaches. So I would say that looking at the human being at the core of everything that you do pays off, not only from a human perspective, but also from a business perspective.
I mean, you are the club that gave Julian Nagelsmann that platform. He became one of the youngest coaches. And how important was that, seeing where he is now?
Yeah. No, for us as a club, extremely important, because it really highlights the pathway that we're trying to go. I mean, the truth is that Julian Nagelsmann is a fantastic coach. But every fantastic coach needs an opportunity. And I think one of the things that we've done well, and that is maybe just to give you a little bit of a glimpse of what we do in the background, is that in addition to measuring our players' athletic or physical capabilities, their speed capabilities, their technical capabilities, one of the things that's very important is that we actually measure their psychological diagnostics. So we do that twice a year, and we do that with the coaches as well. So back in 2016, when Julian Nagelsmann became the youngest head coach in the Bundesliga's history, we knew that he was a fantastic coach from a tactical perspective. We knew that he was fantastic from a motivational perspective. We knew that he was fantastic in the way that he organizes and structures his teams. But we also knew that from a psychological perspective, he's somebody that can cope with stress unlike any other person. And so it's very, very important, and that underlines our database and individual approach to developing talent, that you know who you're working with, and you know not only the athlete or the coach, but you also know the person that is behind that athlete, because that gives you basically access to that entire human being, which which actually gives you the chance to afterwards become successful as an organization. Because we need these examples like Julian Nagelsmann in order to actually show that we have a proof of concept of what we're doing.
Yeah, so it means that even though you are coming with him as a youngest coach, so, but also how you structure the technical team around him becomes important.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's quite easy. You need to have good staff, because good staff picks the coaches. The coaches develop the players, and so if you have staff that's not good, they cannot hire good coaches. If you don't have good coaches, you cannot develop good players. And so it's super, super important that you start at the very beginning in your hiring process and also in your recruiting process in order to be successful as an organization.
I remember the transfer deal of, I think it was Luis Gustavo way back then, but you spoke about Firmino as well. And it's also important to have that model, operating model that will also ensure long sustainability of the club through these transfer deals as well.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that we've done exceedingly well. Our sporting director especially is coming up with a sustainable strategy, because we cannot spend more money than we have, right? It sounds simple, but if you look at the football landscapes, a lot of clubs aren't operating that way. And so for us it has been paramount that after our chairman founded the club, that we stand on our own fundament. And so this, I would say, buying low and selling high strategy and constantly stick to it, this has been one of the most valuable assets to us as an organization.